Okay, so Zok Gemara on Daf Kuf Mem Gimel Amud Aleph. We had three. We had three shitas on the second line from the top of Kuf Mem Gimel Amud Aleph. The Itmar Kanika Chamor Loikon, kind of like a Chamor, which basically means you'll have the same kinyan that a Chamor would have, which is nothing like other. But at the Chamor, you and the Chamor should be kind of. That's where we have our machlokes. Rav Nachman Amar Kana Mechza, Rav Nuna Amar Loy Amar Klum, Rav Sheshes Amar Kana Hakol. So if we think about it, just to see how it's related back to our machlokes between Rabbi Vo and Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Vo held it shouldn't be a good kinyan. Rabbi Yirmiyah held it would be a good kinyan to the son that was already born. And what was the case? The case is, would you compare it to at v'chamor or kni kichamor? How would you compare the case that we learned where he told his son, yeah, you'll also get? I assume it means at v'chamor. So it would be total in a three machlokes. So what happened was Rabbi Yirmiyah said you should pass on like us. And if you want to know my reasoning, I told Reb Avin my reasoning, and Reb Avin agreed with me, right? So what was the reasoning? I myself do not have clear. Was the reasoning why it shouldn't work because it's like kanik chamor? Because that's what happened. Amar lei Rabbi Vo said, "Ilu amar lei kanik chamor mikali itmar." So this is the Rebbe challenging Rabbi Avin, and he's saying that it's compared to kanik chamor, which shouldn't be kind, right? That was Avo's kasha to Rabbi Avin, why he didn't agree with whatever Svara Rabbi Yirmiyah said, which we never found out what it was yet, because he went to get the explanation that Rabbi Yirmiyah gave him, and he chuckled with his head that he agreed. But when he went, he didn't hear any Svara from Rabbi. He asked him Akashi, challenged him. He said, Kanika Chamar. So I don't think that there's a resolution here. I don't think we ever figured out what his raya was. We just say punk for carrot. We see your raya. Maybe it doesn't work because Rabbi Vo clearly is comparing it to a case of kni kechamor, right? At v'chamor is a new thing. Why are we considering this like kni kechamor? Maybe it's at v'chamor. I said, okay, you should also get. Right? That's what happened. You should also get. So maybe it's at v'chamor. So I'm not sure if this is still part of that conversation or not. The Rashbam doesn't say anything.
It brings down the whole price of it, but this swar was
that will support Rabbi Vo, not Rabbi Yirmiyah. Rabbi Yirmiyah held that it worked. Kni kechamor l'chula alma does not work. So the only way you could say that this is being used to explain Rabbi Yirmiyah shita is if it's being compared to at v'chamor, right? But he said right away, il alma kni kechamor mikani. So you see, at least Rabbi Vo considers it kni kechamor, or maybe that's the machlokes gufa. Maybe Rabbi Vo holds kni kechamor, and maybe Rabbi Yirmiyah holds it's kni at v'chamor, and it's going at least according to Rabbi Nachman, because the Rashbam, the Tosha speaks out right on top that we do paskin like Rabbi Nachman. So maybe that's what Rabbi Yirmiyah meant with Rabbi Avin. Okay, so Zok to Gemara Vayter. Where did I get it from? That if it doesn't work for one of the parties, the other party gets the entire transaction. The Tanya Rabbi Yosy Omer, Ein loch mar bekishois elapnimi. When you're talking about gourds, I guess it's like a squash or some other type of vegetable. The most bitter part of it is the core. The outer area is not so bitter. Therefore, if you're going to be mafish truma, and you're taking some of these kishos and you're making them into truma to be matir the rest of the stack, the Rashbam explains it. Not every single fruit has the exact same content of the core to the outer layer in the same proportion. One might have a little bit bigger core area. So if you're being mafish one kishos on another one, the one that you're using might have a bigger core area, meaning it's more bitter content, and the other one, the one that you're trying to be misakin, might have a smaller core area with meaning it'll have more good content, and you're going to be being toyrim mira ala toiva, mira ala yofa. So zokt Rabbi Yosy, ein lach mar bekishus ala plimi sheboy, lefichach kishu toyrim moisip ala chitzain sheboy v'toyrim. What you need to do is you need to, I guess, cut open some other pairs that are only chitzains, that have only chitzains, so you'll for sure have enough chitzains, which is the sweet part, to accommodate all of the chitzain of the pairs that you are trying to be misakin. That's how the Rashbam learns. Tosfos doesn't like to say that there should be such an issue because there's a little difference in content between the inside and the outside. So Tosfos wanted to learn a little bit differently. He wanted to learn that the case was if the kohen, the case where the kohen got his kishois that were truma, and he opened it up and he tried to eat it, and the outside was bitter. So ein lach mar b'kishois, more than the premium, meaning if the outside's bitter, for sure the inside's bitter, and now it's not even called a Michael, and therefore the truma wouldn't be chal, because it's literally like you're using a non-Michael, an unedible fruit to be matter another fruit. So those are the two approaches to the Gemara. But whatever the case is, amai at v'chamorhu. Even if you're going to put in more outside so that you'll have enough soft, sweet tissue to be able to be matir, you still have a problem. Because what are you saying? You're saying all these pairs, a lot of sweet tissue, but also the mar tissue, which is you're not able to use to make truma, should be truma on this. It doesn't work on the mar part, it shouldn't work on the good part either. It's mamish a case of at v'chamor, because I want to allow the sweet tissue to work, even though when I'm technically saying that I'm being mafresh truma, I'm saying it all. So it's mamish a case of at v'chamor. So if it wouldn't work, then nothing would become truma, and therefore you wouldn't be being misak in your payers. So zok to Gemara, amai at v'chamor. If you hold that at v'chamor is not kohen at all, this would be a huge problem because you wouldn't be able to make all this truma. It won't be toifus because there's part of it that can't be toifus. If part of it can't be toifus, nothing will be toifus. Elamai, you say that whatever could be toifus will be toifus and will be matter everything. Zok Gemara, that's not all right. Because shiny hasam midaraisa truma mal yosahi midaraisa, you could be tayrim min hara ala yof, and it would work. It's only a derabanan that they don't allow it, and therefore it's not considered at v'chamor because it's not a chamor. Midaraisa, it's all royu to have been mafresh for truma. How do you know that if you use inferior product to be matir, as truma to be matir the tevel, it works? Shenemar v'leisisu olav chet v'arimchem es chel boi mimen. You shouldn't get an avera when you're being mafresh truma, the best of the best. If what you're trying to do would have no impact, nisius chet lama. How would you get an avera? How would you get an avera if you never made a truma? You might have tried, but you didn't. Mikan, we learn from here. If you try using inferior product, if you actually use inferior product to be matir, higher grade product, avada the truma would work. You get an avera for it, but avada the truma would work. So therefore, you cannot compare this to a case of at v'chamor, because by chamor there's no kinyan. But in this case, even the bitter part would become true. Amalei Avi asked the following kasha. This is an interesting Gemara, because after we learned the kasha, the Gemara is going to tell us, I had a dream that Rav Avia had a good kasha. So this must be that kasha that I dreamt about. Well, yeah, but Rav Mordechai is relaying a story. I heard that Rav Avia had this tiyufta. This is a very interesting story. There were 5 women together. And amongst these 5 women, 2 of these women were sisters. This fellow who wanted to marry took a basket full of figs. These figs happened to belong to these 5 women. So it would have been Gezel, but Vishal Shviyas. It was a Shemitah year. So the Shpam says right off the bat, one of the limudim to be extracted from this story is that you cannot be Mekadosh Begezel. That's why it said Vishal Hanaisa, Vishal Shviyas. It's only considered a possible kedushin because they were allowed to take it because it was shviyas. Because this gentleman was allowed to take it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to make a kedushin. The Omar, and you know what he said? He wanted to be mekadosh them all together. Instead of giving each woman her own respect and at least being mekadosh her separately, he did a wholesale kedushin on all of them. So I should all be mekudeshes to me with this basket of figs. And one woman accepted the kedushin on behalf of all the 5 women. So will this work? Amr Chacham, the Chacham said, the 2 sisters are mekudeshes because each one is a kedushin. You can't marry a woman if you can't have relations with her. You can't have relations with her because she's a sister. And here it's more than that. Here, even if the kedushin can't work because you can't even say misofik he could live with one, because since he might be mikudesh to the other, he could never. The marriage will not work for them. But it's only a chaya to the in his transaction was not valid only for the sisters. Hanach is the other 3 women mikudashes. They would be mikudesh. Why? You did it with one transaction and it doesn't work partially. V'amai. At v'chamarhi. It's mamish a case of at v'chamar. Amarlei, he told him, I knew the Chazayir Rav Huna bar Avia b'chalmo. This is what Rav Huna bar Avia saw in a dream. The Moisif Rav Avia to Yufta, that Rav Avia was going to ask a stira on anyone who holds at v'chamar doesn't work.
This is why I saw Rav Huna bar Avia.
I'm sorry.
Why I saw Rav Huna bar Avia.
Oh, I saw Rav Huna bar Avia in a dream that he asked a kasha. He asked Rav Avia kasha. So Rav Huna bar Avia dreamt that Rav Avia asked the kasha. So who dreamt it? Rav Ashi said. Who's Rav Ashi and Rav Mordechai? It's not over there. Amalei Rav Mordechai or Rav Ashi. Rav Mordechai told Rav Ashi that Mordechai quoted a kasha from Rav Avia. So Rav Ashi told Mordechai, in fact, I had a dream that, and in that dream Rav Avia asked the kasha. Okay, well, in the dream Rav Avia asked the kasha. Zog to Gemara, Lav miu kimna, the Amar haruya mikem labia teskadishli. You don't have a raya at all. Because what he said was haruya mikem labia teskadishli. Only the women that I could legally have beer with, only those women should be included in the kedushin. So it's not at v'chamor. In his expression of kedushin, he specifically excluded the 2 sisters. So the whole shah is not like it. So it was just because the kasha is not a good kasha. Okay, I don't know. B'chalal, try being mekadosh a lady with a bag of figs, and while you're being mekadosher, try to be mekadosh multiple women together. It doesn't usually end well. Zog to the matter. Who the someone told his wife, Nichsai loch uluvanai. My nechashim shall go to you and to my boys. So what does he mean to do? Does he mean to say you'll get an equal chelik with my boys? Or does he mean to say split the entire state in half and you'll get half and the boys will have to share the other half? Rabbi Yosef Kansa Mechza. She's actually kind of full half and the children have as Yerusha to split amongst themselves the other half. Rabbi Yosef, how do I know this halach? The Tanya Rabbi Omer. It says in the pasuk, "V'haya la'aron u'levana," and this is referring So it goes to Aaron Uvana. And we darshan, the Brisa teaches us, Mechta la'Aaron and Mechta Levana. It's half to Aaron and half Levana.
8.mile goals, double digits near 12.
It's half to Aaron and half to Levana. So you see that when you put together two parties, it means you want the first party to have an equal share to the combined total of the second party. The Rashbam shares with us something interesting. How many lechem aponims were there? There were 12, 6 and 6. But in fact, the Aharon, the Kohen Gadol, did not get half of those. And the Rashbam says as follows, just as an aside, interesting information. It says in the Rashbam on the fourth wide line, V'oisal Aaron, v'lechem aponim tziv, Aaron zeh Kohen Gadol, metzel Kohen Gadol, metzel l'mishmeres HaKohen. V'hach brayse b'mesechas Yuma b'perek Rishon, the Tanan Hosam gabi Kohen Gadol makriv chelik b'roish, v'noitel chelik b'roish. The Kohen Gadol has a right to stand in on any korban, and he has a right to take any chelik that's of meat that's available. Whatever he wants, he gets. The rest, whatever he doesn't want, that's what will be split evenly amongst the Mishmar. The tiny b'gemar v'noitel chalo achas mishtei chalo shalotzeres. There's two chalos that are brought on Shavuos. He gets one of them. Arba oy chamesh mimaisa lechem aponim. He gets 4 or 5 from the lechem aponim, and Rabbi Yom which is the limud that our Gemara shared with us. So there the Gemara explains if he's supposed to get half, he should get all 6. Why is it a question of 4 or 5? So there's 2 piles, 6 per pile. Whatever the case is, we can extract from here the Noitel connected Amarud. With Rabbim, what you mean to say is the Yochid should get as much as the total that the Rabbim will get. So that is the raya that Rabbi Yosef wanted to bring.
I think we have a problem here.
Internet here is really doing well. Just for Akiva's information, we're not on the shul internet because it's down, but that's why you don't see the camera from the television. We're on of Simchas, or what's the other one? And that's this. It's cutting in and out. Yeah. Okay. So Zok to Gemara. Maybe all that he meant was that she should have an equal share. Is that so? This situation came up in Nardah, and Shmuel gave her half the estate. B'Tferia, a similar story happened in Tferia. And Rabbi Yochanan paskin that she should get half. V'su, and I'll tell you something else. He also Rabbi Yitzchak bar Yosef Amar, Hahu Demei Kalila, the Shadu Demei Malka, Abuli Vastarugi. It used to be that the Melech would like unfairly tax the community. So the Melech said that you must provide me a new crown. He told this community, you need to pay for a new crown. But he didn't say the entire citizenship has to pay. It's only the Abuli Vastarugi. And Rashbam is going to tell us either referring to the wealthy people, and Istarugi are the people in power. Now, the Rashbam says that the Avuli are richer. I'm sorry, the wealthy, and on the knackers in the community. So Rabbi Paskin Amar Rebbe Nisvi Avuli Palga Vistarugi Palga. They're going to split it 50-50. The wealthy people will have to contribute half, and the noblemen will have to pay half. So, so you see, once again, you see that when I put two together, it's half and half. Zaktamar, that's not a raya from there either, because Hasan Meikara he have a kasvi abuli kasvi. The king mainly was focused on the rich people giving. The people are going to give, but they expected, since the Istarugi are somewhat well-to-do, they're just not as wealthy as the Abuli. But Istarugi have a Messiah Bahadayu. They would have helped, and the king knew they were going to help anyway. So the fact that the king spoke out Istarugi as well, the other Malkada become Messiah, even if he wouldn't have spoken out Istarugi. So Hashta, my Dekasvi Abuli the Istarugi. About the king specified Istarugi, he obviously wanted more than what would have happened if he just asked the Abuli to buy it. Remember, the Hani Palga, the Hani Palga. The Ischayvus was 50-50. So therefore, you don't have a raya from there. So the Gemara quoted three rayas to Rabbi Yosef, that Shmuel paskin this way in the Hardah, and Rabbi Yochanan paskin this way in Tveria. The third raya from the king that the Gemara seems to have neutralized. Masav Rab Zera, Ha'omer Harai Alai Mincha Meya Isarn Lavi B'Shnei Kelim. If someone says, I'm going to bring a mincha of 100 Isarn, which was a huge amount, and I'm going to bring it in 2 kelim. Now we know the maximum that you could bring in 1 keli that you could possibly mix together with oil is 60 Isarn. So you have to split it up. How do you split it up into 2 kelim? Maybe Shishim B'Kli Va'arboim B'Kli The if b'di'evet, so this is the right way to do it, not 50-50. The right way to do it is to split it 60-40. The im b'di'evet, hevi chamishim b'kli echad, v'chamishim b'kli acher, yotz. So zok the Gemara im hevi in l'chatchila loy. You're not supposed to do it 50-50. V'solka daita kol ki agavna palgo. If you're going to say that whenever I speak out 2 kelim, I mean the second thing should be equal to the first one, which means it should be b'davka 50-50. That should be the way to do it, to split it up 50-50, because whenever someone refers to 2 recipients, we're saying by default it means that they each should receive the same. Zok Gemara, that's not a raya either in that case. Because Hachi Ashta, Hasam, Anan Sahadi, the high Gavra Meikara, the carbon Gadol Kamachab. Really, he wanted to bring the whole impressive carbon in one huge vat of 100 esronim. The problem is, legally, he's not allowed. So he's forced to split it up. So the high to come of B'Shnei Kelim is not because he wants 50-50 like in a normal case. It's because the Yada de Layevcher Asuya B'Kli Echad. He knows he can't bring all of the 100 esronim in 1 keli. So at least he wants to make whatever he does bring as large as possible. Kamo de Efcher Li Maisina. Therefore, his intent surely is to bring the largest possible mincha, which is 60 Yisrael. We pass like Rabbi Yosef in 3 cases. Normally, we pass like Rabba in Shas when he argues with Rabbi Yosef. In this case and 2 other cases, we pass like Rabbi Yosef. And now we could proudly say that in this Masechta, we learned all 3 of the cases. Soda is on Daf Yud Beis, where there was a brother who was going to be yarshaning a piece of property that his father had. So he ran out and bought an adjacent property. And this way, when they're splitting up their father's property, he's going to ask for the piece of property that's closest to where he's adjacent to. The halacha is he doesn't get to say that I get it. Because they can say this particular property is very, very, very high grade property and willing to pay more for it. We want it. So if everything was is of a higher grade, or even if the brothers merely claim that, he doesn't have a din of parameter. We discussed along maybe a week ago when people are making a deal, when is the deal finalized? Is it finalized when the meeting is completely over, or is it finalized when they go to a different topic? So the Gemara said, Inyan. Rabbi Yosef said it was Inyan. As soon as they change the topic, that's when it becomes final. And Umechza is this case over here, that when someone gives something to two people, he means that they should each be getting 50%. About it. Ahu the Shadar Piski the Shiruai Levese. Someone who was overseas traveling on business, and he sent them a package, and the package had pieces of shiroi. Shiroi is silk or some silk. So he sent pieces of silk to his family. Who are they for? He didn't say who they're for. He didn't write a card. Amr Ababi, anything that would be something that the sons can use, they get. Ru'in Levanos. If it's something that his daughters can use, then he meant, even he didn't write anything, but if it's obvious, if he said dresses, it's obvious, even in today's day and age, that it's going to his daughters. Or if he said jewelry, shiroi, whatever they were. But Loya Amaran, this is a very interesting halacha. Rabbi says, listen to this. All the less like also. He only means to give it also. And then of course, Shabak Bantai Imashadalakalte. He's not going to abandon his daughters who need a source of support, which is him, and give it to his daughter-in-law who already has a source of support, his sons. Yep. So the pecking order is the sons get first. If not the sons, then the daughters that are single. And if there's no daughters that are single, then it goes to daughters-in-law, and then it goes to daughters. Interesting point. Okay, Hahu da Amar Lahu. You know what I love? The same family dynamics that exist nowadays were in those days too. It was exactly the same in those days as well. Nothing changes. The only thing that changed is the content of the gift. Today, if you're sending old underwear, you're not sending that to your daughter because you were selling shiroi, some cut up pieces of bacon. My nechasim should go to my children. But in Lashon plural, my children plural. The problem is, Havale bro Barta. He had one son and one daughter. So since he used a Lashon of plural, does that mean he wants to include his daughter? Or a person will refer to a single son as my sons? Mi kare inshi levra benai. Would someone use a plural Lashon if he's only referring to a son? And therefore he doesn't want his daughter to get. A person will never use a plural lashon on one son, and therefore it must be he must also want to give it to his daughter. If you notice, the Gemara doesn't even consider that option. I'm not sure if you noticed that. But the Gemara is very subtle. Amar Abaye, Tashma. It says Uvenei Don Chushim. The children of Don, plural, Chushim, one son. So you see clearly, you could refer to one son with a lashon of plural. Omalei Rava, that's not a raya. There's other midrashim that have a different opinion, that say that Don had many children. Dilma kedetana de vecheskia, shayu merubin kechushim shalkana. They're so plentiful like the chushim of a kana. I don't know what the translation of that is. What is chushim shalkana? Clusters of what? Clusters of reeds. So there are many children, and the Rishbam speaks out, the children of Yaakov coming down to Mitzrayim. It says Chushim. The cluster of reeds, Don was a very big shevet, but that was only a couple of generations later. But maybe the Gemara is suggesting Chushim referring to the future growth. Elo Amarava, I'll have you a different person. It says V'nei Palu Eliyah. Palu had one son, and it's called B'nei. You have a raya that the person will refer to a son with a plural lashon, and therefore the daughter doesn't get any. My nechasim should go to my sons. He had a son. And he had a grandson. Either the son of his son, or maybe the son of the question is, Kara in Rab. Would someone refer to his grandson as his child? If someone answers himself, to have anah from his sons, mutter b'vnei bonim. He's allowed to have anah from his grandchildren. So that story we had where someone gave away all his nechasim because he wanted his father to come to the wedding. Why didn't he give it to his own child? He could have given it to the chasm. If the Israel now doesn't include the Bible. Okay. More weiter. He left over children that were, some of them were older and able to take care of things, and some of them were ketanim, were children. And what happened was is and the adult children were mashpiach to nechasim. And the Gemara is going to clarify if they use their own money, if they just use the resources of the estate. They took the initiative, they created an improvement. Allah is everyone gets an equal share, the ketanim as well. But if they tell, the response is Bezdin, or could be it's Adam, Tosis has a discussion about it, but if they declared, Mashanich Abba, Harei and Hoisin, what our father left us over, we're going to improve, and we want to eat from and benefit from all of the improvements that we cause, then then the children don't get to take a share. Now the Rashbam makes something very, very clear. It says as follows. Vim amur gedolim ketanim b'fnei edim, amur levezdin oibitzibur, re'uma shaniach lanu abo, umuzumanim anu lachloik, umashanishbiach nashbiach michalkenu. So the Rashbam is saying we're going to improve our half. So we're only improving our half, not their half. So this is what we would have gotten, and we're going to listen. We're going to improve one half, which we're going to consider our half, and we want it all. Toysus learns no, they actually improved the whole property. They're improving the whole property, and they're going to get the improvement from the entire property. Anything away from their siblings. Okay, so if they said, what if a wife was going to be yarshening together with her children? So it's a case where she's not getting mizoni from the estate, because then her ma'asidayim go to the estate. Rather, she was going to be taking her chayil. And sheshpiches and chasim hashpichel emta. But im amr rumat shanich li baili harani oisev aichelas. Then the same thing is shpichel atzma. Because basically, Bezdin, other relatives who are going to want to stick up for the helpless little children who can't do that, the same thing that we're doing, you can do it for them. Don't be a do-gooder and put it on my cheshbon. You do it. Come in. Don't complain to me that I'm not giving my siblings. Come in. You can do the same thing for them. No one's stopping you. Amar Rab Chaviv b'rei Rabbi Yosef b'rei de Rava mishmei de Rava. Lo shanu shapu nechasu machmas nechasu. That's only if they didn't put in their own money or their own work. They just hired people with money that was in the estate. So they're not doing their own thing. We already learned that the shpichel atzma. If they did it on their own and they made an investment, surely only they get to keep. Any is that so? Udaini are boyres of mayim. How do you make money off Udaini? Very simple. You charge people for water. My son told me that in Brisk, they don't have enough facilities for the Bachim. So the Bachim learn in a Bishmedish next door to Brisk. And in the Bishmedish next door to Brisk, they don't you're invading our Bishmedish. So they have to pay them rent. Brisk has to pay the rent. And they charge 1 shekel every time you use the bathroom. Because the Bachim are using up their toilet paper and it creates a mess, so they now have an official charge to use the bathroom. So Adaini is it's boyers of mime, and you have to have someone there watching it. So they would have had to hire somebody to watch it. And they got to put on money to pay somebody to watch it, to make sure that they pay every time they want to get a drink. It's a 4-pay society. So Adaini, the machmas atzmayu, they're for sure they got to put in their own work because they got to watch it. So that doesn't mean anything. The only work required is to watch it. That people shouldn't take without permission. the children themselves, if they were standing there, that would have been good enough. They could have been watching it, and therefore, it's still considered the shpicha machmas atzma. Amru, what if they said, this is a very small piece of Gemara that has a shocking conclusion, so I want to chap around. Amru, uma shanich abba, hareu no oishim v'oichlin, then it's a shpicha atzma. If they speak out, if they go to bed and say, listen here, we're going to do it, you could do it for them too. But don't come to us crying later, we're only doing it, we want all the benefit of what we're doing. Rav Safra, who was a gadol, right? Shavak avu azuzi. His father also left over money, and he had also younger siblings. Shaklinu, he took the money and he invested it. Abadu iska, he used the money from the estate, he invested it and he made money, and he did not want to share it with his younger brothers. So also Achi, Tavu Bina, his brothers came and took him to the Torah. You used estate money, and now you don't want to share the growth with us. Tavu Bedina Kamei de Rav, Amalu, you're going to love this. Amalu, you know what Rav said? Rav Safra Gava Rabu. Rav Safra is a big Tamachachim. He's going to learn every spare second that he has. If he's taking off from learning to be Isaac and Parnasa, he's not doing it to do you a chesed. He's doing it because he needs to survive so he can learn more. But he doesn't. He wouldn't have taken an extra second out of his time to help you guys out because he's busy learning. I'm just reading the words. He's not going to be busy trying to make money. He's going to leave that to the Askana. He's going to sit and learn. So what he did, even without speaking it out, it's clear that he only did it for himself. We need a Rashbam on this one. Because if he spoke out to Farish, we see from here, if you're on the level of Rab Safra, where every nanosecond that you have is used for learning, and you would never be Isaac in anything else, it's command Amr Dami. That's a very interesting Gemara. I guess if we knew somebody like Rab Safra, we could justify. But whoever we know as Gedolim, probably not as holy as Rab Safra was. So nowadays it would be hard to justify something like that. Okay, everybody should have a wonderful, wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos. And Bez Hashem, tomorrow we'll learn an hour before Mincha. And Matzah Shabbos, we're going to learn 5 minutes before Avos Abanim. We learned too quickly after Shabbos last time. It was too big of a rush. I like to learn 5 minutes before Avos Abanim so that we can still get parking when we come.